Back in May 2023, a mutual friend of ours, Ali, got in touch with me. Something on the lines of, look, I met this guy called Daniel who's got one of the most extraordinary stories I've come across. And I recommended your book, Glow in the Dark, for him to read. And he's read it and he's enjoyed it and he would like me to introduce you both. Would that be okay? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And then we got an email introduction. You and I kind of scheduled a call. We spoke, I think, the 16th of May, 2023, something like that. People I get to work with. I was asking, like, what do you think is getting in your way of sharing your story? So you said, I'm scared of the power of my story. Like, I know there's this story I should be sharing, I can share, but I'm scared of the power. The other thing is you said something along the lines, I feel like I need to really unpack it and distill it so I can understand parts of the story and what kind of message lands. We're now speaking in November, end of November, so almost like December, right? So we got to work together a few months. Before we even get to begin to talk about your story, I'm just curious, selfishly, genuinely, to understand where you are now compared to where you were when I made that first conversation with you back in May. Like, do you feel there's been a transformation? Do you feel different about your relationship to your story? And if so, what's changed?
At that stage, I was definitely nervous about sharing my story. Like I said, I was scared. I knew the power in it, but I didn't know how to structure a story. Previously, the year before, it's the first time I've ever shared my story publicly. But at that stage, it was more for me, for my healing.
Yeah.
So I just blurted it all out, something that I'd been keeping in for over 30 years. When you came into my life, it was like, okay, cool. How do I now learn to structure a story? How do I learn to unpack my story so that it's valuable to the specific audience that I'm trying to help and serve? And I know we worked consecutively from May until the end of July. And then naturally, you had a pause. I needed a pause. It was a really challenging, uplifting journey that I knew I was going to get into it based on reading your book and reading about like how you always spoke about in your book, how your clients and the people that you serve go on a journey and how it transforms them.
Because it's hard to explain. I mean, that's one of the things that I find really difficult to put into words or even quantify the transformational journey. Because I actually said this in a recent Q&A I did about my book. I was invited to go and speak at this community. I actually said, look, it's not at the end of the day about whether you share your story or not. I mean, obviously, I'm in the business of wanting you to have a ripple effect and make an impact as a leader. So of course, I want you to share your story, but it's who you become in the process. Does that speak to you in some way? Do you get that? The kind of your relationship to yourself and how you interact with others and how you interact with the world changes as a result of unpacking, distilling, and kind of shaping your story?
100%. I resonate so much with that because my transformation, it basically goes into owning fully who you are. I mean, from the conversations we've had, my whole interactions with people has changed, but most importantly, my whole interaction with myself has changed. The narrative in my mind has shifted. The way I communicate has shifted. I remember the first conversation you said, our goal was to create a vending machine with different stories.
Yes.
So my communication has improved. The biggest thing for me is just owning fully who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest gift you've given me on this journey is because you don't have to be anyone else besides you. So the way when I unpack the story with you on the journey, you always ask me such interesting questions that really forced me to go deep, really forced me to look at things differently. And then now, over all the months, it's like, okay, now my brain's like creating this beautiful narrative that it doesn't even have to lie or it's the truth. That's it. It's just revealing the truth of who I am.
Connecting the dots.
If you look back, just even the first time we met six months ago, I wanted to open up my heart. I didn't know how to open up my heart because I didn't want to feel. So I can look back at from 2013 to 2020 was all about using that method that I learned about where I was able to process things and look at things differently from a mental perspective. But then my body and my heart wasn't connected.
True.
When you're able to connect your head and your heart, your voice comes out. And it was something that I always struggled and I judged myself harshly for. It was like I'd be in situations where I want to talk, but I didn't know how to talk. And I'd be like, okay, what's wrong with me? This, that, they don't teach you that. But then I didn't realize it was just a defense thing because I didn't want to go to any moments that I experienced before. I didn't want to go there. So for example, the first time we met and I was telling you my story, I remember my voice was squeaky, emotional, wasn't stable because that's the power I was scared of. When you talk about your story, I was scared to go there because I know on the other side of it, there's something powerful that I can utilize now where I sit here today. And that's the plan going forward is now utilize that to serve other people.
I just want to acknowledge you for the journey you've been on, because from the first conversation we've had to today, and just the courage that you've had and the resiliency that you've had to show up consistently, do the work, go to places that are scary, that are uncomfortable, that anyone would rather avoid. And you did that with so much humility, so much strength and courage that you've inspired me generally.
I mean, from day one, you made me feel safe. You understood. You pushed me, but you knew how far you could push me.
Someone thinking about doing this work with me around unpacking their story, but they're hesitant, they're scared, they're not sure. What do you want to tell them?
A few things. I would say, again, use my experience as a reference. I think it's also been an incredible journey to watch your growth through it. The way, if I look at the questions you asked in the beginning to the incredible relationship we share now, you've taken me to a level that no one else could have taken me. You've helped me unpack my story in great detail that now will allow me the gift to go help and serve others. And I think that's the thing. Your story is who you are. So if you want an incredibly inspiring, challenging, courageous journey that at the end you figure out who you are, contact Mark and let him help you unpack your story. I think that's an incredible gift you can give yourself, and each of you deserve.